Good morning, Sir Maarten. What's cooking? June 26, 2023, episode 83. It's a lovely day out there today. We had a great weekend, and I am thankful to God that we were spared from both of the weather fronts, tropical storms actually, Brett and Cindy, that passed us and really didn't touch us too good. So I'm very, very happy. I'm thankful to God. I noticed the minister, I'm going to start addressing him as Minister Stupidity, run and went to clean a bunch of trenches out there, left, right, and center. So all the contractors that they shaft thus far with contracts, they got them walking out there fast to clean up trenches. That's basically what's going on, people. And they putting out some Instagram pictures instead of getting contracts ready. But we're going to talk about those things all later, because it's going to be a show today that I have themed No Holds Barred. Anything will go. And there's a reason for that. And as my show goes on, you will clearly see that empowerment of our people is not the norm in this country. And I'm going to talk about it. So, I notice we fly to Aruba and we sign an MOU to exchange agriculture information with other kingdom partners and aims to further develop and incorporate agriculture education in schools. And the minister went as far as having committed helping other islands develop their agriculture education program through sharing of information. Now listen, I don't want to be disrespectful, okay? But if there's one thing this country has not done, is agriculture. We haven't done a damn thing for it. Nothing. You have people like Denisio, Ras Bushman, Shola, Jocelyn. Those people do agriculture. And you gonna go Aruba sign a MOU that say Maarten government gonna give information? You make ourselves look like a laughing stock because we do nothing for education. Now you're going up there and signing. Listen, if SOAB signs it, no? I say yes, because they're planting as government. They're building up a database and they can share. The only database we have is what you shouldn't be doing when you go to Miami. All right? So stop it before I get very disrespectful now. This stupidity thing that we're doing right now because elections start is crazy. This is craziness, people. And this is just the start of the show. This is going to get rough today. I could guarantee you. Elections are on. That is for sure. So everybody now coming with some kind of craziness. What I liked, for example, is that we got the green light from CFT to borrow money. 69 million guilders, to be precise, to put it in capital investments of this country. The first thing I would have expected, or any normal Samaritan would have expected, is that you float a bond through the central bank and you have your own companies given preference like SFV or APS to invest the money into this bond. It's a 20-year bond. It's what we call a long-term bond. It's what SFV and APS do with their money on the stock market. But here you get a bond backed by the central bank, the regulator, the monetary regulator in your country. Instead of doing that, this government, as they normally would do, goes to Holland and begs there for a loan. Now, mind you, there are a few things that play a role when you get a loan or when you float a bond. Is there appetite for it? First of all, I believe there is appetite because APS and SFV need to find a place to put their money so that they can make a good return on investment, about 5%, so that at least the pension funds and the social insurance funds are healthy. 2, what are the percentage rates that they're going to get? Now, normally 5% is what these both entities look for on a return, but depending on market, it can be a little lower. As I discuss green energy later, you will realize that green energy is in a very difficult transitional period because the market prices, the percentages on loans are 3% plus, which means the Dutch are not going to give it to us for 0%. They're going to give it to us for market value. That's what they're going to do. Even our existing loans that was 0% are becoming market value. Whatever they can get it for in the market, they'll pass it on to us. That was agreed upon already. So we already got a few $100 million that we owe the Dutch at the new market value, not at zero. They're going to discuss that down the road. But that we don't even offer our own entities an opportunity to invest in a bond, but just take a loan directly from the Netherlands, which has to, by the way, still be approved by the second chamber. And I'm sure conditions will be tied to that, because what's happening in Aruba with the CAFT has them very worried. And in Aruba, come December now, the Aruba Holland protocol comes to an end. They don't want that, so they're going to find a way to hold on to us, Sint Maarten, that needs to borrow money right now. This is what's happening, people. We seem not to look too far and we just read the headline, The Hague gonna give us 69 million. No, it ain't coming for free. There is no more free money in this country. We got to get off of that notion. It ain't happening. My concern was, why not offer it to the locals through a bond? Even normal people that had money put away would have been able to buy into the bond. Because when you sell a bond, they make margins of 5,000 guilders, or 10,000 guilders, or 20,000, 50,000, whatever. People that have money in Sint Maarten that wanted to buy into it could have bought into it. And it's a 20-year guarantee return on investment of 5% per year. So again, it would have meant basically 20 times 5 was 100%. You will get back 100% of your money that you put in now. That's what it means. But we are not good enough for that. We're not good enough. We're not offered the opportunity. We don't empower our own people. Not this government for sure. But we're going to get to that. I want to congratulate all the youngsters that sat exams and passed. And those that have to resit, I wish you much success while you are resitting your exam. And to the proud parents, congratulations. I think it was a difficult year in general, in schools also. But I'm happy to see that the exam rates from the various schools is above average. And that's a good thing for Sint Maarten. That's a very good thing for Sint Maarten. And I don't want to start sharing congratulatory remarks too high, because that's a whole different story. But to the students and their parents and their teachers, congratulations. Now, a question I have, and it seems that everybody is ducking this answer. What's the status of the presently owed liquidity loans? They're due in October. We are now going into the 7th month, July. In a few days, we're in July. And nobody can come out in a press briefing and say, we have agreement A, B, C, or D. We are going to get an extension. We have to pay so much this year. Because I heard the Dutch government said 73 million, I believe, has to be paid this year. What is Sint Maarten's share? Is it under budget? Nobody talking. Nobody saying nothing. And I am kind of flabbergasted. Maybe that's the best word to use. Flabbergasted that it's not important. It is like, don't worry about that. When it come, it come. No, we have a balanced budget according to what I understood. The question is, and let me ask it hard, did the government sign it? Was that budget signed into law? Because I can't recall seeing it in the National Gazette, but maybe I missed it. Maybe I missed it. And if I did, I would appreciate somebody throw me a message that I know that I can go look for it. Because it will be interesting to see what's really in that budget and how much monies were made available for the repayment of the October due liquidity loans. Because I don't believe it is regulated. And by the Dutch at this point in time, being able to say that Aruba is not going to get a favorable rate in refinancing gave me some hope in the beginning. Hey, we're going to refinance. But it was the same State Secretary Van Hoffland who said, no, we paying, or you're going to have to pay back 70-something million. Now, must I read 2/3 Curacao, 1/3 St. Maarten, a 3/4 Curacao, a quarter St. Maarten? For St. Maarten, it still means about 17 million guilders. That's a lot of money. That's a lot of money going into your 3rd quarter of your year already. Your good months have passed. Your bad months coming now for tax, because turnover tax is going to drop. The economy isn't turning as heavy as it is turning now, as it was turning January, February, March, and April. The economy is going to slow down. The slower months, August and September and October, are coming. So where do we plan to generate that money? All the various income streams that were added on for the airline tax and all those things have not materialized. So our previously stated, projected surplus positive budget is not going to be so. We had a surplus on income in March and April, and I was happy for the Minister of Finance that he had a surplus because it gave him a cushion to work with. But as long as we don't get clarity on these liquidity loans, we are in for a serious surprise yet. And that's what's bothering me. That we go back to the same group of people to lend money again, while we could have empowered our own here. I'm going to keep coming back to that word empowerment, because we're not doing it. At least I'll tell you this much. The party I come from, the Now, that is a fundamental something in our party. Empowerment of our own. If we can't take care of our own, then don't ask nobody to take care of them. That's how you have to look at it. We want to talk about autonomy and even independence, but we can't take care of your own. They're not good enough. They need courses. But yeah, I have to agree with MP Westcott in the article about the Integrity Chamber report, which clearly states that they are tendering issues once again. And this is once again just simply being swept under the rug. Also, the fact that the Integrity Chamber didn't give more formal recommendations as it relates to the findings to MP Westcott was a surprise. Oh, I don't know. I don't know if the Integrity Chamber should have done it. I think the Integrity Chamber is a good thing for the country. The impartiality, let me put it so, in my opinion, is there because the family tie with the place where the tenders is happening, the failed tenders are happening, is clear. Many people don't know it, but I know it. And yet, a blistering report was given. So the impartiality, in my opinion, is okay. The thing with the Integrity Chamber is the information that they gather, they cannot turn it over to the Public Prosecutor's Office. The law doesn't allow that. That is something that we have to review in the Integrity Chamber law. Because if information during an investigation is gathered and shows that things are going wrong, you should have the right and, in my opinion, the obligation to turn it over. And not to just give a recommendation. I think recommendations with this government mean absolutely nothing. As long as it's not binding, it means absolutely nothing. That is factual. And I'm going to discuss that later when I reach to Winia. Because a lot of people thinking, what are you going to talk about today? I talk about Telem and Winia for sure. And we're going to talk about some strange things that this country needs to understand what we're dealing with. Some people are afraid to say it. I am not. I'm not afraid to say things. And sometimes I get myself in trouble for it, but that's okay. I'm a big boy. I take my blows as they come. This Council of Ministers, though, and the coalition by extension, clearly support these wrongdoings. Because the first time when the Ombudsman report came, they voted it off. People jumped on a plane, came from Panama, could hardly walk to vote and save. To vote and save. And now we get the Integrity Chamber that states this, and again, nothing. So this "we are one" surely means something. The question is, what exactly does it mean? And we will get to those things. Now, this one is the best one. I like this one. The Prime Minister is baffled by the accusation of interference in the SER makeup. Well, the ILO doesn't think so, Tanti. The ILO said you should learn. You can remember that way, like helicopter view. You should have that and know that you're not allowed to do what you did. You were instrumental, together with the Chamber of Commerce, the president that time, to create the SOAB Employees Association. You wanted to break up the whole SHTA, the Employers Council for St. Maarten, which had the SHTA in it, the Indian merchants, and whomever else it was. You didn't like it, you wanted a change up. You were deeply involved, Madam Prime Minister. You were involved. You know you were. So don't be surprised that those people that do have a helicopter view and know how ILO works reported you to the Committee of Experts. And when the Committee of Standards reviewed it, guess what? Crap a smoky pipe. You get a little walla walla on your bottom. And now you're baffled. Don't be baffled. You should be ashamed. That's what you should be. You should be ashamed of yourself. That you are interfering in something that you should not be interfering in. Unions and employers, it's not your business. Your business is running this country, but that you can't. But again, we're going to see. We're going to see as we go along. We're going to see as, when I speak about ILO just now, because I have been speaking now to the unions. And I hope the unions, but they're going to lead up for the ILO. Let me continue. To the Minister of VSA. I'm happy. I'm very happy that we have after hours house doctor care that will start at the St. Maarten Diagnostic Center, commonly known as Dr. Denoise Clinic. And that's in the Simpson Bay area. I'm happy that we have this now. But what I didn't understand, and that's what I wanted some clarity on, I was trying to call you over the weekend, I didn't get you, so here goes. Which doctors are going to be working there? Are there going to be house doctors that maybe are going to be in a call system that on Friday or 2 days a week this doctor and then 2 days a week that doctor works down at the diagnostic center? Because the reason I asked that is you stated that the paperwork was still being done for the doctors that have to work there. And then you give me the impression that we are talking about foreign doctors. And we're not going to use the doctors that are here. Now I know SZV has a quota of 2,000 people per doctor. And I know a lot of doctors don't have the 2,000 quota yet. So why wasn't maybe an agreement made with the doctors, the General Practitioners Association, that the doctors that are working that don't have the 2,000 yet can then work down there? Why do we have to bring in doctors? Because that's basically what I'm reading. They're being vetted. And seeing that SZV is paying this bill, why are we not keeping the money here with the doctors that we have already? Just a question. Would appreciate an answer. Now, casino machines popping up, continuously popping up in bars all over the country, especially in the lower income areas, according to a report made and questions asked to the Minister of TIAT by one of the MPs. The question to answer that is, where's the gaming board? Because if the gaming board is in place, this can't happen. We keep worrying about what's happening out there instead of worrying what needs to be put in place to prevent it from happening. I have spoken about a gaming board before I was elected to Parliament. This is the last term of Parliament, the 4th term of the year. The fourth one-year term of Parliament is in. Comes to an end in October. Sorry, in February next year. They already have sat over 40 months in Parliament. And up until today, and they boast of being a government uninterrupted. They cannot get the gaming board off the ground yet. And the question is why? Why are you not working on this gaming board? And keep telling me about studies and all kind of, that's just nonsense now. Keep telling me there's no financing. Nonsense. Who forcing you not to do it? Because that's the question. Who telling you you cannot do it? That's the question. And when you answer that honestly, then we will have a gaming board in St. Maarten. And then, because I am a firm believer that we got to tackle the casinos. I have said it publicly. A radio host even told me, "You afraid to shoot you?" Why? Because I speak out. And when my time comes, it comes. But I'll tell you this much. We have created addiction in this country. You all worry about all those smoking marijuana and crack and drinking alcohol. We have gambling addicts that destroy their families, destroy the lives of people because they can't help themselves. And we have nothing in place to fix it. We have nothing in place to help them. And that's part of the gaming board, people. That's part of the gaming board's obligations, to ensure that there is help for these people. But you can't have casinos open all over the place, not in hotels. And the only people going to those casinos are locals. That's our problem. And when it's in the casino, we got what, 100 plus lottery booths all over the place? Not one in Oyster Pond, not one in Kupakoi. Go look where they be. And then pull your conclusions. What we are allowing in this country. And we talk about the helicopter view. And we talk about strategic thinking. No, we're not thinking. We are acting. We are acting on instructions. Because if you had the well-being of this country at heart, this gaming board would have been in place a long, long, long time ago. And then Gromiko's brown paper bag was in the discussion. All right? Good. But yeah, like I said, we cleaning trenches. 2 storms passed us and missed us. So now suddenly, Minister Shupadi run into clean trenches. You don't need to clean the trenches. What you need to do, sir, is give the contract that was won. There was a tender done 18 months ago. Nobody wants to say it. I go to say it here today. There was one contractor that won 3 parcels. There are 4 parcels to give. The contractor also won district cleaning and has 1 or 2 parcels in the district cleaning. The contractor also knocking down the government building, the old government building. The contractor also won another contract, I just understood. This contractor is very good at making his tenders, which means when they evaluate it, he will score high and win. Like it or not. I think the Prime Minister said it. You know, when you're bringing people and you do something, you got to accept the outcome. So why are you all not accepting the outcome of the trench cleaning? Because friends and family didn't win it. So now you got a minister trying to write an advice. And if I'm wrong, if I'm lying, come out Wednesday and talk about it. Minister Shupadi. Come out and talk about it. I challenge you. Because you're a coward when it comes to these things. You're running, talking all stupidness on the road, but you don't control the road. I do that more than you. Take that and put that in your pipe. You didn't expect that from me. But I'll tell you something. The contractor coming for you now. You all believe you're going to swindle him out of 3 contracts. You all got a serious problems in your hand. He ain't going to roll over play dead, you know. I could tell you that. He ain't going to roll over to play dead. You might wonder where I getting this from. Time will tell. Time will tell. Because a lot will come out. A lot. The closer we get to elections, the closer the facts will become clear. I notice, and I'm happy to read, that we have a new prosecutorial code of conduct that has been presented now to the ministers of justice. by the Attorney General, Tonman, to replace the one of 2016. And hopefully, and this is my personal opinion, hopefully there's a better understanding of the human rights that suspects have. And that you can't just do what you feel like doing because you say it's in the interest of the investigation. If the interest of the investigation is to break the law, then you're just as big a criminal as the one you're investigating. And that happens here too often. That happens with the TBO. They do as they feel like. They hide behind a little number because they don't put their name. They give you a number. They're number X, a number Y. And they do investigations. They hack into people's computers. They listen to people without authorization. And then they use the famous heading, a confidential informant gave it to me, told me this and told me that. That's not the way you do things. So I'm happy that there's a new prosecutorial code of conduct. And I hope those investigators that are off limits to any other institution but fall under the Prosecutor General, the Attorney General, that they too are stuck to those standards. Because if they are not, then why are you bringing a manual that makes no sense? You got to bite corruption in its bottom. That means where it's practiced. That's how I hope this conduct will work. Now, once again, cannabis. I'm going to ask you all about it publicly. Because we seem to believe that cannabis is a very, very, very bad drug that is going to make people crazy and we can't pick up and do nothing with them. Nevis just enacted it. Nevis just did. St. Kitts has enacted it. Antigua has enacted it. St. Lucia has enacted it. St. Vincent has enacted it. Tortola enacted it. Let me ask you a question, people. All these Caribbean brothers and sisters you all speak about, we are one. They must be stupid that they don't understand this. And they don't know what it means. Or do they? And we don't know what it means. Are we going to miss the opportunity of a lifetime to legalize something that can help us turn our economy around? And please don't tell me, oh, they're going to abuse it now. People going to abuse anything. From power to drugs. From women to children. People abuse them. And as long as we keep turning a blind eye and saying it ain't happening, it ain't we, that ain't we, then we're fooling ourselves. I call on this government. Regulate the industry. Legalize cannabis. Legalize it. A lot of people going to be making an honest living instead of hustling. If you like it or not, 30 to 40% of your population smokes cannabis recreational. And yes, you're going to have a few people that are going to be addicted to it. But you see the people walking the streets? That's not drugs. That's mental issues. But that you ain't tackling. You're talking about it, but you ain't tackling it. We need to become honest with ourselves. We need to leave the hypocrisy by the door. We need to leave the bigotry by the door. If we want to run this country, we got to become real with each other. And I'm going to tell you things you don't like, and you can tell me things I mightn't like. But I'm okay with that. I respect your opinion. I don't need to share your opinion, though. But I will respect it. But we don't respect our own people's opinion. We don't. What we do is we come and give Nancy stories around it. So, the request for proposal, Minister, what happened? That was in December. What happened? We are now in June, going into July. What happened? Nothing. Nothing happened. Minister Justice, you were going to look at the tolerance policy. What happened? Nothing. Absolutely nothing. But you all say empowering the people. You for the people. We are one. No, we are not one. It's you all and we. That's how this country is right now. It's the government versus the country. Because you're not there for the country. You're not there for the country. You're not empowering the people of the country. That's the problem. But again, I am going to keep talking about it until you all wake up and do something. Or when we get in January, we will change it. That is one thing that will change when we get in. Because this government is not a government of inclusion, it's a government of exclusion. And that's unfortunate. I'm happy to pick up the papers today and read Parliament passes motion to facilitate early release anklet bracelet monitoring. I'm happy. I have spoken about this so often. Why? Because you have, the Dutch get upset. Eh? We have 127 people got to go to jail. They got to go to jail because they were sentenced. Yeah, they were sentenced by a set of judges that come down here and met out sentences that are not normal in the Netherlands. But we talk about equality. People get sentences here that when you look in Holland, the same crime is committed, but they get nothing, they get community service. So all those, and I'm not talking about hardcore killers now. Our killers that get life and 30 years in Holland, they get about 10 years or 12 years, and then they send them home. And then in between, they send them to one of those halfway houses where they could go home in the weekend, and they get some money for the train and the tram too. So please, let's not play with each other's intelligence. Let's call a spade what it is. We have a lot of people here that are waiting to hear a day when they got to report to Point Blanche. But they have been waiting 5+ years. Put a bracelet on these people and tell them for the next 6 months, you are going to be on punishment. And you can go from home to work, to church, certain things. Set it up. That's what the parole officers can do. Set it up. There's a monitoring board. You can see where the people go. Because there might be an emergency. They have to go to the emergency center. And that's not on their list where they should be. But at least they can move on with their lives. And it don't cost them $150 a day in the Point Blanche prison for the people them. This is the human aspect. And there's a financial savings on the other side. Do you have to put people in jail? Depending on the crime, yes. People make mistakes. Husband slap a wife. That's one thing. Beat her down is a totally different thing. But for the slap, he shouldn't walk away either. But he doesn't need to go to prison. He should be given community service and anger management. But if he brutalizes her, yes, he should go to prison. There are differences. But we have one blanket statement. They bad, punish them, lock them up. And this is the problem. This is the problem. So now we rack up 100 and something people that have to go to jail. They're waiting donkey years to get a chance to go to jail. We have parliamentarians with an irrevocable sentence waiting to get called to go to jail. Serious? The crime was committed, what? 2012, 2014. The man was sentenced 5 years ago. Put the anklet bracelet and even stop the nonsense. Why you gotta go to jail for now? Nobody remembers it anymore. Except to those that have an agenda. And that's the problem. We gotta stop playing second fiddler to their agenda. We should play our agenda and do things our way. And yeah, some people will say, if you do the crime, you gotta do the time. I agree with you wholeheartedly. But I want to do the crime. I want to do the time when I do the crime. I don't want to do it 10 years later and have to wait. Now this time I have a child and my child ain't going to see daddy no more because some jokers didn't know how to run the country's penitentiary system. That's what it is. So what it is. So tell me something. They went to ILO, and I bring this up because of the different newspaper articles. First, the minister came out and he said, it was a great ILO conference, etc., etc. And Maarten was good, saved, or whatever they call it. Then came a second story that caught me thinking, because it says ILO again reprimands Maarten for not adhering to international labor standards. And then came another article, Maarten berated by global employers, workers' reps at ILO. And I said, wait. I read articles, and then, you know, when I read the second article, it became clear that the government has not been adhering to the conclusions of the Committee of Experts of last year, which clearly stated that government has to refrain from any interference in the exercising of social partners of their freedom of association in general, and to refrain from promoting organizations not freely set up or chosen by the workers and the employers of St. Maarten. And you say, well, what does this mean? It's simple. A school board gives a teacher the instruction in their contracts that they cannot be part of a union. That same school board wants money from the government. And the government subsidizes them knowing what they're doing. They were told, stop it, fix it. Have they? No. So do they get a lick? Yes. You see what happens? People believe, a lot of people don't understand the ILO. The ILO is not a Johnny-come-lately organization. The ILO is the International Labour Organization. And it is seated in Geneva, Switzerland. And guess what? Once a year they have conventions. And when you go to these conventions, there are certain things discussed. And I think it was the 87th convention. Because I've had a discussion with a few union leaders now. And I'm going to make a public call after this piece of ILO on where I believe we should go. The Prime Minister started screaming, oh God, I am baffled. How are I going to get blamed for SER? You have to be blamed because you got involved with creating another employers association to take place in the SER. You are the one that had to present the names for nomination. You refused to do that until the SOAB Employers Association was also represented on the SER. That's not your task, lady. Your strategic thinking and helicopter view put you right back in the bush. Because you should have stayed away from it as the law states. As the law states. But again, you clearly don't understand Article 3 of the concept of freedom of association. And this is what you have been beaten for by the ILO. And the Minister of Labour also got a little spank because he came in and tried to go under the banner of the Dutch. And the ILO told him, no, you're an autonomous country. You are directly with us here. We're going to talk. We want to talk to you. We need to talk to the Netherlands. We want to talk to you. And we will explain to you what will happen. And at the end of the day, basically what is being told to St. Maarten, because you see, St. Maarten didn't expect that the Employers' Council would report them to the ILO, to the Committee of Experts. They didn't expect that. They thought they'd send them a letter here in St. Maarten at the Labour office. But these guys, they understand. I ain't gonna call names, but the gentleman that did this, he knew how to handle and skin this cat. Where they thought, oh, might is right. And again, here goes. A judge tells them, no, government, you're right. What you're doing, you're right. Have no clue of what's happening. At this level, gives a verdict. And ILO says, please send us the verdict. Because we are very interested in seeing this one. Where the government interferes. Situation. So again, we have some very, very serious issues happening. So in ILO, what they told them right now is, listen, we urge you all to get our experts involved. Let us help you all with this situation. Because clearly, this national situation is not in conformity with the agreements of the convention. And I think it's Convention 87 that we were talking about. I spoke to some union people, and I spoke yesterday to a veteran in the union field, and that veteran told me they don't understand what's going on. And because they don't understand what's going on, they are making these cardinal mistakes. You don't visit ILO once and you know ILO. That's not how it works. And I want to side with the veteran on this because I too have traveled very often to international conventions with associations, and not because you went once, you understand it. You sat in the meetings and now you know everything. There's so much you don't know. Every year you learn. So in that sense, I really hope that the government, in particular the Minister of ASR, accepts the offer that was made by ILO, by the Committee of Experts, to bring in somebody to help them regulate how it needs to be done specifically. Freedom of association is a basic human right, people. It's empowerment of your people. That's what it is. But we as this government here has opted to allow school boards to exclude their teachers from being in a union. And then they give them subsidy. And you wonder why you get a cut ass? Clearly, your helicopter view is a problem. You have no clue what you're dealing with. Clearly. But hey, like I said, it is what it is. Now let me go over to the one that it's a little personal to me, but I'll keep my personal feelings abreast a minute. Winnie's new CEO. During last week's press briefing, the reporter Andrew Dick questioned the Prime Minister about the appointment of the CEO of Veneer. And I thought that her response was rather concerning. Let me start off by saying that I agree that when we start a process, we need to complete it. And that at times we might not like the outcome. But I was extremely disappointed, even somewhat comical, when the Prime Minister went off script and said the following things. Because Andrew had a way to reel her in and he caught her. You need a helicopter view to understand the big picture. And 30 years of experience, operational experience, means nothing. As a local myself, with decades of experience in government, allow me to give you some perspective, Madam Prime Minister. 30 years in the airline in question for the job means you have learned the ins and outs of that company. You know the do's and don'ts of that company. You know what works and what does not work for that company. It means you're a dedicated person to that company, not a fly-by-night. A helicopter view cannot give you that. And it's the innovations, and if it's innovations actually that you want, you use the people with the most knowledge of the company and you bring in experts to support them. You don't hire a foreign CEO. You don't do that. But again, you don't empower either. But this isn't about a helicopter view, Madam Prime Minister. For me, this is about yet another local being denied the opportunity to grow in their own country. This is about another missed opportunity to empower your own. I suggest you listen to Dr. Soma's presentation, which she made last week, 2 weeks ago in Parliament. Listen to it, and then you'll understand what I'm talking about. When we learn to do it ourselves, instead of having others come in and do it for us, when we gonna learn? Why can we not accept that we too have people that can do the job? What's so difficult in it? I think your deputy leader was the one screaming about that. You are qualified, isn't it? What happened to that slogan? Right or wrong? Don't get mad with me. You're the one that said these things. Then the Prime Minister remarks that the Corporate Council advice must be respected. And I found that remarkable. That one, I sat back, I said, really? How often have you and your colleagues pushed aside Corporate Council's advice and appointed political candidates to the boards and other high offices? Does the GB board ring a bell? What was the council's advice then? Not to appoint political party candidates. Do you recall that? Or you forgot that? Because you come now and you are justifying what is going on by making this statement. And then the Prime Minister's advice during the same press briefing, which she went totally off script, was that the locals working at the companies can take courses from online, for example, like Coursera, to upgrade themselves to be CEO material. Madam Prime Minister, this is the most amazing statement I've heard so far in your 4-year tenure. This even superseded eating crackers and oats and all those things. You know why? Because the question would have been, or your answer should have been, why didn't the company make room and upgrade their people? Why didn't the company make courses available for their people so that they could have reached up to the level that they would have been the CEO and not a foreigner once again? But, you know, Madam Prime Minister, do you really believe in these Coursera courses? Because if you do, if you truly do, then I would have assumed that you would have signed up 1 or 2 of your ministers for some courses, especially language, so that at least they can, you know, pronounce the words correctly instead of babbling. But again, nothing personal, okay? Just an observation. But Madam Prime Minister, must I conclude from this experience and your helicopter view when it comes to the counterpart that a policy has been created and that you're going to be sending a letter to the government-owned companies to place locals as counterpart next to the foreigners who the government appoints for the top jobs? Am I to understand that? Madam Prime Minister, remind me of the status of affairs of the counterpart of the CFO at PGIA. Or is it arm's length now? Because for the past 3 years with the Schiphol contract, a CFO was to be appointed. We have gone through 4 Dutch CFOs already, and there still is no counterpart. But you come in the press briefing and you speak of a letter. Did you send a letter to the airport? Did you instruct the airport to put the counterpart? Madam Prime Minister, stop. The lies are going to catch up on you. Stop when you're ahead. You know, Madam Prime Minister, I read it today also on Facebook, or yeah, this morning I read it, where a school teacher, and now he works for government, I believe, but a gentleman, a well-educated gentleman, wrote the following. The CEO of Winair, the former CEO of Winair, Dr. Andis Holiday, had no airline experience when he took the helm at Winair. Was he evaluated for having a helicopter view? He went on to hold the top job of PGIAE at the airport, and then the governor of St. Maarten. Edwin Hodge was the chief pilot when he took the helm, and Michael Cleaver was the station manager for American Airlines. Were they tested for helicopter view and strategic thinking? The answer is no. The answer is no. So when you talk about these things, sometimes it's good to look at the history, because I'm not going to delve in to who was there, who wasn't there, what went down, what didn't go down. Bottom line is this, Madam Prime Minister. My brother, Claudio, he has 30 years plus experience in the airline industry. 22 years plus as a director in Winair, running the biggest department, and has been there through the good times, the bad times, the ugly times, and the real ugly times. But that seems not to be good enough for you as government. It's clear it's politics time. To you I say this, game on. Let's move on to another topic that the people of St. Maarten should get a little more insight on. Telem. Today I'm going to spend nearly half my podcast on discussing Telem's issues, the confidential SOAB report, and hopefully what it should entail, the fiber to the home projects, and the union versus the strategic management team. I'm also going to be sending you a formal letter on this as citizen Bun Camper, and I'm going to ask my party leader to formally send questions out of Parliament, and we're going to see how that's going to work. Because clearly something is wrong. Let's start with the fiber to the home project. During the public meeting with Madam Prime Minister regarding the Telem report of SOAB, I understood that lots of money was spent, but the majority of the country is still not connected, and the return on investment for the company hasn't materialized correctly yet. So I have some questions I'll be asking, and then I'm going to send you this letter, Madam Prime Minister, with all these questions, so you can answer me in writing if you so desire. Otherwise, you will answer Parliament in writing, which you're obligated to. How many loans were taken for the fiber to the home project, and what is the value of these loans? As I understood you saying something about 56 million guilders was already spent on the fiber to the home project, and we're far from finished. Is Telem currently meeting the obligations to pay these loans through the return on investment of these loans for this project? And there's naturally a reason I ask this, because you stated that 19,000 homes were passed and only 9,000 have been connected. So what's the return on investment then? Is it only the 9,000 out of the 19, or is it the 9,000 out of the 28,000? Which one is it? Because you were not clear with that. You said 19,000 passed. That doesn't mean to say that those passed were connected. And then you said there was another 9,000 connected. Was the 9,000 part of the 19,000, or was it beside the 19,000? Because that makes it very interesting. That will make the calculations very, very, very interesting. Now, is it true that $1,000 was paid per home passed? So if we had 19,000 homes passed, I mean $19,000 of work was paid for, and you're not getting back 1 red cent. Is that the case, Madam Prime Minister? Because you're the overseer of that company. How many connections are there possible on the Dutch side of this island? And was the project intended to cover all? And I ask that because Flo is also putting fiber under the ground. So the question is, what is it? It's a very simple something, you know. It's a very simple question. But you're going to have to answer. How many districts are still pending to be connected? And how many of those districts have very bad copper connections? Which means the people ain't really getting the service they are paying for. So basically, you're stealing from them. How many of those? Who made the choice to place fiber to the homes in primarily the richer neighborhoods? The Pelicans, the Oyster Ponds, the St. John's, instead of, for example, Dutch Quarter, Middle Region, Belvedere. All of those are untouched. Who made that call? What is the plan for the fiber to the homes project moving forward, and which districts are being chosen first? I mean, for God's sakes. 2 nights ago, the new leader-to-be launched his candidacy in Dutch Quarter. But there we got shit water running on the road, no fiber, nothing. So just a question. No, don't get all my feet. Just a question. Has there been a route established to ensure the effectivity and the efficiency of this project? That's called strategic thinking. Hasn't been done. Did the plan entail risk and waste to ensure that the company resources are not wasted or misused? Strategic thinking and having a proper helicopter view would have ensured that the fiber would have first been installed in areas where the copper was deteriorated. Or is it only known if you have 30 plus years of operational experience? How much was Maarten paid before the contract was terminated, and how many districts were connected for this fee by Maarten? To my knowledge, Maarten won the court case against Telem in Amsterdam. How much did Telem have to pay Maarten, and have those financial consequences disrupted the fiber to the home project? What are the financial consequences for Telem because of that court case? Have all the local contractors that were still owed monies by Maarten been paid out now? And how much was the total amount owed? If not, what's the plan to get them their money? Why was the rest of the island not finished? Was the loan not enough based on what the Prime Minister stated in Parliament? Because she said, money done, company strapped for money. How many districts are still to be connected, and when will this happen? Were all the homes, the houses, the buildings, etc. in the fiber-ready areas connected? If not, why not? Because you're losing on investments. It is understood that in certain districts, fiber has been installed on one side of the road and not on the other side. Is there a reason for this? And why one side? Was it because people specifically had to get fiber on that side? Just trying to understand why we would do it that way. Where will the additional funds come from to connect to other districts? Has the loan provider to Telem given any feedback on the requested additional loan to finish this project? If yes, was it a positive or negative, seeing the Prime Minister stated in Parliament that the project is presently on hold due to the lack of finances? So I want to believe that you all are looking for an additional loan to finish the project. I don't want to believe you're going to just leave it there because you don't have no more money. That wouldn't be wise strategic thinking, because you would lose your investment. Is the company able to meet the return on investments on its present loan of 56 million? If that answer is no, then I am reasonably sure that there will be no additional loan, because not strategy nor helicopter view will tell a bank to give you money. Either you have a positive return on investment or you don't. And if you don't, you can't expect to get more money to try to finish something. So again, it's gonna be a ticklish something, because Telem finds itself in a very awkward position right now. And you invested 56 million guilders, and you don't have nothing to show for that on the return properly to move forward and get the others connected. In the same meeting, the Prime Minister alluded to a horrible communication between the union and the Telem management. Based on a letter from the union to the Prime Minister back in February of 2022, some 16 months ago, some 16 points were brought up regarding the working atmosphere, the company harmony, the demotivation of employees, the disrespect of employees, and the dictatorial manner the strategic team of the Telem management functions. A letter was also sent to Parliament and was booked under the reference of IS 641-2122, which speaks about the state of affairs related to the concerns about the working environment at Telem as expressed by the union. Now, I'm just going to highlight a few things, otherwise we're going to be here till tomorrow. But there are many examples in the letter, and since this letter has been sent, a lot more has happened. There are a lot of horrendous examples that can be presented by the SMCU, that's the union, on behalf of their members, or even the employees themselves. There are still several court cases by the union against Telem. But in actuality, these are a direct cause of the CEO's actions, and there are 3 court cases of employees against Telem and 1 ex-employee as well. And again, these are not catered towards Telem, but more towards the CEO's action, which have dire financial consequences also for Telem. Also, the biggest case until today is the mayor case that Telem lost. It would be interesting to know what these court cases have financially costed the company, who by all accounts is cash-strapped. So I'm going to ask a few questions, and I hope that clarity can be given to these things. Can the company list how many cases it has had in the past 5 years related to employees? How many were lost? And what did this cost Telem? How many cases were appealed and then lost? How have employees of the former employees, so have employees and former employees taken the CEO specifically to court and not Telem for actions towards them by the CEO, and are these actions lawful? Why is the supervisory board not holding the CEO or the management team responsible for recklessly involving Telem in many court cases that weren't needed and costed Telem loads of money while they needed to save? Would a forensic audit related to all of the above mentioned court cases have led to the CEO being possibly held accountable for mismanagement? These questions are questions that I have received from, in particularly the union, based on the letter they wrote to Parliament and to Madam Prime Minister. And the reason I am reading them out now is that people understand what was being asked for and what was really being given. Is it a fair statement to say Telem under the leadership has been involved in civil suits for the past 5 years and that this has created a constant negative portrayal in the media? There's also led to a very strained relationship between the employees and management, resulting in a no confidence in the CEO and the now Vice CFO consultant, Mrs. Etnell, and the rest of the strategic management team when this letter was written? Will the Supervisory Board of Directors review this situation on the instruction of the shareholder? So I'm asking the shareholder, what are you going to do? The union has written to you. You spoke about it in Parliament. But what is really happening? Because nobody is saying nothing. And if there's anything that can damage a company where people lose trust in it, is when the employees don't trust their bosses. It's like when the voters tell us, the politicians, including myself, we don't trust you all no more. We don't want you all there. And they don't come out and vote in mass. And then we still get in because, hey, those that voted us in. But you got to look at it carefully, because there are a lot of complaints about what's happening. And again, it is directed to people. I don't want to attack people, and that's why I'm trying to stay away from name calling as much as I can. Mrs. Etnell's name, unfortunately, I have to call because her situation is one of those dubious situations right now. But nevertheless, the strategic management team in Telem has some problems. Maybe a few courses with Coursera can open their eyesight a little better and give some more human resource training so that we can get this. But the destruction of the people's morale in there, the demotivation, we got to look at these things, because this is going to hurt the company and the country in the long run, and you can't just push it off. I have a few other points, because the former CFO, Ms. Etnell, was a consultant for more than a year after her resignation from Telem in 2021, October 2021, I believe it was. She had resigned and she remained as a consultant. I have asked about this. I even called the strategic management team and asked a question about this. And it was, yeah, they're working on the new CFO. The new CFO came into work the 1st of April. He's the CFO. And about a week, 10 days ago, I saw a picture of the name board of Mrs. Etnell. It says Vice CFO. And I'm saying to myself, but I must be going crazy. I must be going blind. You were a consultant because there was no CFO and you had resigned as CFO. You stayed on. And I make no fuss because I understand there's a transition period. Now we have the CFO and now you're the Vice CFO? Does that function even exist in the organizational structure of Telem? Or are we now creating functions? Honestly, these are things that we really, really need the government to explain. Because a question I have now is Ms. Etnell still a statutory director at Telem? Does she still sign on behalf of Telem? Does she still make decisions, or does she make all the decisions of the financial top level decisions in Telem? Because we have Mr. Hato there, who came from Flow and knows financing in this business. We don't need to work at 10 different companies to understand finances. But when you come from a company that does the same thing as Telem, then that's added value. That's how you look at it. Not if they have a strategic view or a helicopter view. No. You look at the value they bring. That was value. That put him there. So why do you need a vice CFO? Simple. Is it that Mr. Nell still signing on behalf of Telem? I don't know. I need to ask. I know Mr. Nell went to Kanto. And if my memory serves me well, I read in the papers that Mr. Nell is on the board of Kanto and represents Telem. Might be wrong. Correct me if I'm wrong. But I don't think I'm wrong. My question is this. So now we have a consultant on the board of Kanto representing a St. Maarten-owned company. So we don't have enough people. We don't have people good enough to do this. I'm saying, come on, man. Come on, please. Kendall is an IT man. Why isn't he sitting on the board since Ms. Etnell is a consultant? Why is that? I'm trying my best to understand how this works, but I can't. The same goes for the pension fund. Same goes for the pension fund. Who is representing the Telem company in Villanova? I need you all to answer these things. I know who is representing the employees and the pension fund. That is Mr. Gums, if my memory serves me well, on behalf of the employees. So who is representing the management? Is it the consultant or is it the CFO? Who is it? Because we need to understand these things. We really need to understand these things. I don't see, nor do I understand, why a consultant needs to do this for us. Telem don't have nobody in management. And you don't need to be in the strategic management team. You need to be in management that can represent the company in the insurance company, in the pension fund. I can remember when I used to work in GB, I used to represent the workers, and Frank Lake used to represent management, and he was human resources. He was the human resources man. So the human resources is normally the people that deal with pensions. Finance, they're just paying. You're just paying the company share. Because when reality push comes to shove, decisions at high level about involvement, because pension funds have evolved over the years, because pensions, to keep them alive, a lot of changes have to be made in how we do things. And I understand a lot of strategic thinking happens there. A lot. I agree with you. I ain't going to say no to that. But don't tell me Telem has nobody else and we need to send a consultant. Kendall, you can empower your own people by sending somebody. You can. You don't have to ask the Prime Minister permission. You're the CEO. You're the big honcho there. You got to do your job there, though. Can somebody give me an explanation? Because, when the confidentiality aspect came up in the SOAB report, I said, whoa, that's funny. If we're going to talk about confidentiality and the information in the report can put Telem in a very awkward position, and to their competitors especially, and to lenders. Because remember, they need l'argent, and they ain't getting no loan, and that report might cause their neck to be cut and not get money. That's what the Prime Minister was alluding to. Let's be clear. But it goes further, because there are local companies that have been deeply involved with the fiber to the home projects. Those same companies that had access to everything from Telem are now working for a competitor. putting fiber in the ground because they got money. So tell me, what are you talking about? Confidentiality and gonna mash up Telem. What are we talking about? You see, again, y'all gonna start a war and destroy your own by talking stupidity. All right? Put out the report. The report can't kill nobody. That report, if that report was to bury Telem, then that report buried the management. And we're going to discuss that just now. Because that's the problem. If the report is going to break Telem's neck, that means it broke the management's neck. That's what it means. No more, no less. Madam Prime Minister with her strategic thinking and a helicopter view. You clearly need a lot of courses. The biggest course you need is the common sense course. Because you have no clue what you're talking when you start to babble. Stay on script. Because when you get off a script, you're gone. You have no clue. You're just running rampant. And that's unfortunate. Because you are the face of this country, unfortunately, right now. Well, let's move on. You know, the question is, in Telem, in the report, a lot of things were brought forward. But what I found strange, and I'm going to address it just now, is who all was spoken to. When reports are made, you want to hope that it goes across the board. But I don't know if that was the case. I'm not getting that impression because when I asked certain people if they were spoken to, the answer was no. So I'm getting a little dubious with the report, but we're going to get to that just now. Let me ask this question. Vida Nova. That's the pension fund of record for Telem. I hope, and I don't want to cause no trouble, but I hope that eventually Telem resorts on the APS, the St. Maarten-based pension fund, and not the Curacao-based pension fund. At the end of the day, put our money here. Just food for thought. That's how you empower your own organizations. That's how you empower your own entities. And if you don't have better, I understand, you go elsewhere. And that's what happened before 10-10-10, because APS wasn't really operational before 10-10. It became operational 10-10-10. So I hope GB, who's also by Vida Nova, I believe, Telem, that maybe gradually come over to your own pension fund and build your own pension fund. That's how I hope it will go. But again, I know there are a lot of problems between management and the union when it comes to Vida Nova, and with agreements and not following the rules of engagement with the CLA and with the Vida Nova changes. But again, like I said, Vida Nova is an evolving something. Pension funds are evolving. Sometimes decisions are made that you don't agree with, but you have to respect. But one thing you should not do is bypass those that you're deciding for. Because when you do that, you will get like what happened with the ILO and the viewless Prime Minister when she says, I'm baffled. You don't have to be baffled, you have to be ashamed, like I told you. Today's your day. Today's your day. You know, there are agreements that were signed with the Vida Nova. Do they have financial consequences for the stuff? Because it isn't clear. I'm happy to see somebody just reported in, Helma's out, and Kendall is in, or somebody else, he is in. So at least we got one in. Now, there are a few things that I need to touch on when we come to this whole confidentiality SOAB report of Telem, because I don't know. The Prime Minister says if it comes out, it will destroy the company. And I'm saying if it comes out, it will highlight the mismanagement in the company that the union has been crying foul about and the Prime Minister has not worried with. And it will then anchor the statements of the former chairman of the board that was fired on the request of the CEO of the company and the Prime Minister went along. Because the former CEO of the board seems to have really had a clash with the management of Telem. Direct clashes, where he went as far as accusing them of the whole purchase of cable TV and the illegalities that were involved there, and the management, the strategic management team, or the management signing over their allotted allowances in contracts, and so a lot of different things were brought up by the former CEO in letters that he published. So again, what can be so confidential if all these things have been put out there and we saying it ain't so? Did the Parliament ask for a forensic investigation to be made on Telem? Because I'm not clear with that one either. If Parliament requested it or if they did not request it, I'm not sure. But when I listened to the meeting, especially the part of the report, the confidentiality of the SOAB report, I don't believe it's confidential, and I understood a lot of people have it out there, so I don't know how confidential it really is. If people have it, then the competitor has it. Let's not mince the words about that. Then the competitor has it, and the competitor has read exactly what they should do and where they should do it and how they should do it. That simple it is. But I don't believe the report really carries that type of big information in it as the Prime Minister was alluding to. I think the report more talks about serious issues that need to be addressed differently, that are not being addressed properly right now. That's the impression I get. Because what was there to hide from Telem that hasn't been spoken publicly already of Telem? Any member in Parliament has immunity, can talk anything they want, and is broadcasted live. So the chairman stopped MP Emmanuel, and MP Emmanuel unfortunately decided not to ask questions. But all MP Emmanuel has to do is not relate it to the report, but ask the questions that are in the report. And then what? Put them in writing, and then what? I mean, come on. Listen, there's no national secret in the report. There's no national secret in there, and we got to be clear with that. So that we want to hide certain things in the report, that's a different story. That's a different story, and we'll address that differently. But again, mismanagement is summed up indirectly in the operational audit. And therefore, I believe that there should have been a forensic audit done on very specific chapters of the operational audit. That's what should have happened. The report is based on information provided by the organization's body against whom these alleged mismanagements is being reviewed. Remember, the union asked for it to be reviewed, for them to be taken under the loop. It was the union that sent in all these letters that led to this. It isn't that the government said, or the board said, hey, let's call in SOAB, let's have this done. No, the pressure was significant from the union. So they decided, let's have an operational audit, but you're only speaking to these people. And that's where the problem stands. That's exactly where the problem stands. Because if I am the person that is filing the complaint and the request to have it investigated, then I should be spoken to. But the union was not spoken to. The former chairman of the supervisory board of Telem was not spoken to. SOAB made it abundantly clear from the starting that the review was not in compliance with various rules of auditing. So again, Madam Prime Minister, what's so confidential? Because this is not the real deal. Because it was not in line with the auditing regulations. And I'm going to touch that just now because you stated that Telem had an unqualified auditor's report for 2022. That's a few months ago. The question is then, so in 2021 when this report was made, because this report was handed into the government in September 2021, and this report was held under the sheets until now. Until now. The question is this. When the auditors gave an unqualified opinion, which means the company is A-OK, what is in the report that is so detrimental to the company? What is it? Because it can't be the books then. Because the books are good. And if management did something wrong financially, it would have been reported. So what is it then? What is it really that this report uncovered that you believe can destroy Telem? Or is it maybe that it can destroy the government politically? Which one is it exactly? Because I'm starting to have my doubts if it is Telem you're protecting or yourself you're protecting. Because that too can be something. And telling me that Telem said they want to keep it confidential. I think Telem itself knows that majority of the people in Telem read this report. So, I don't know. But it's going to be interesting to know, like I said, who all they spoke to. Was the union spoken to? Was the former chairman spoken to? Because the former chairman is the one that made a load of noise about this cable TV thing and mismanagement, and so the union did it, but these people were not spoken to. So what substance does this report really have? Because if you're not speaking to the people that know about what's wrong, yeah, then what are we doing? What are we really talking about? You know, listen, the relationship between the management board and the former supervisory board of directors was not a good one. It was a very difficult one. The chairman was thrown off. After that, one of the party members was also pushed off because he was a little too hard on management. He was asking too much of difficult questions because he's a banker, so he knows finance. And he could smell a rat and see a rat very fast. So when he started asking those questions, ooh, move, gone. They move him too. So again, were these people spoken to? I want to nearly say no. But again, these are the problems that we got to be careful with, because then the report has no real substance. It has no believability. But even so, it seems that members of parliament had something when they read that report that they were coming with blazing, and they were stopped. That they can't use the report because the report is confidential. What kind of confidentiality? Because they got a clean auditor's report. So what's confidential? The lenders should be able to give them the money unless the lenders start to hear about mismanagement and hanky-panky, and they say, you know, we ain't going into bed with this group. I don't know. I just asking because nobody can see it. But again, like I said, it is difficult when these things happen and the people that complain about it are not being heard. Am I to believe that in the SOAB report, the finances of the financials, the capex, the opex, etc., all of these things were reviewed and found to be in order, seeing that in 2022, you said there was an unqualified auditor's report given to Telem, because then 2021 had to be good too, otherwise that would have been carried over, and the review would have shown that. But you said there was an unqualified, which means it was A-OK, unless you're not telling the truth there too. Now, Telem is restructuring, and if I understood correctly, in the restructuring, a lot of digitalization went down, and a lot of movement of money went on in that, in specifically the digitalization of the company. And I think you all spoke about this customer, how do you call that thing now? How do you call this? This special thing here, this customer relationship management system. I think that's what it was. And it had to do with the billing. I can remember you all talking about this billing thing, billing problem, and maybe Telem can give their billing system to GB to help GB after a hack. I can remember I was talking about this thing. So I want to believe that this whole digitalization went to that direction. But what I am understanding from the school children is that Telem already had a CRM system in place, a customer relationship management system in place. And the company they brought in had to do that too. Had to buy a new system, same CRM system, and put it in. Is that something that maybe the report was talking about? That had to be reviewed? Because for years now this is ongoing and it's still even working correctly. And they have company checking company in Telem. So Telem hires in a company and then hires another company to check that company to see if their work is good. Is that what the report was talking about? Because I don't know how to understand what is so confidential in this report that people are ducking and hiding from this report. Again, I don't know who all did what or who didn't do what. But the only thing that I can conclude is that there must be something of mismanagement in there, that if that gets out, that can affect the loan perspective for Telem. I want to believe that is the critical issue in the SOAB report, where they wanted to make it now, how would I say, off limits for the public, especially the banking industry, because it has nothing to do with the whole Telem investment in the fiber to the homes, because the company that did it with Telem is now working for the competitor, putting cables for the competitor. So again, the whole billing system and what is around that in the digitalization world, I want to believe that is an integral part of this report, and that's causing a lot of problems. That is causing problems. And it means maybe that should be reviewed. Maybe a forensic audit on the billing system and the whole story around the billing system, who got hired, how they got hired. Because remember, it was the former chairman of the board that kept bringing up the tender procedure in Telem, saying it's no good, it's biased. Certain people are preferential. They get preferential treatment. They become untouchable in the company. I didn't say that. The former chairman said that. Don't come hold me now and say, oh, but Campus said this. I am repeating certain things that were put in black and white to you, Madam Prime Minister. You got those letters from Mr. Richardson, or you forgot. That's why you all fired him. Because he was too difficult. He was asking questions that he was not allowed to ask. But Mr. Richardson, trying to uphold his role as chairman of the board, was asking what needed to be asked. And other board members that were on board with him were also sacked. So please, you tell me and tell St. Maarten what it is. Because we are now really lost when it comes to your side of the story. A lot of us don't believe it anymore. You tell a lot of little untruths. You even blame ILO for blaming you for doing what you shouldn't be doing. But you know, again, this whole CRM, is it tied to the data center and the data warehouse that the same company is involved in? Who is this company? Who has shares in this company? It is nearly unbelievable that one company gets all of this work in Telem when there are enough other companies in St. Maarten that do this work too. So what is it exactly? You know, I don't want to say things that I can't prove, so I'm not going to say them. You know, the thing that I have a problem with this whole report is who was spoken to. And my last concern, and one of the bigger concerns that I have, is all of the unions' grievances, were they part of this report? Because if they were not, then what the hell is this report really talking about? What exactly? Because then I really want to read this report. Because I cannot believe that the union whom asked for this forensic investigation and got an operational audit was not heard. That the former chairman of the board who wrote up the strategic management team / CEO and team for wrongdoings was not heard. Because SOAB already said that the report isn't in line with normal audits. Then the cardinal question is, what type of report is it? Let's move on. Healthcare agreements for the kingdom and the countries. The Public Health Minister of Aruba, Curaçao, and Sint Maarten, and the State Secretary of Public Health of the Netherlands, all of them came together in Curaçao, and they had the 5th edition of the 4-country public health consultation. A lot of things were discussed, like the implementation of the International Health Regulation, the IHR, the preparedness for pandemics, preparedness for crises and disasters in the region, mental health legislation, prevention and healthy lifestyle, quality institutions, healthcare personnel capacity, the Dutch Caribbean Hospital Alliance, and the new topic for this year was the effect of slavery, the slavery's past on our public health. Now, the implementation of the International Health Regulation is something that I agree and I support, and I spoke to some health experts just to get a grip on really what all was being said and what does it really mean. Now, I remember the last time with the pandemic, when we had a pandemic in Sint Maarten, COVID, with the injections, so the, how you call it now, the vaccines. It was give the people a vaccine first, and then hopefully the rest could get. While the government of Sint Maarten wanted that the parliamentarians, because I was one of them that went to take it, and then they tell us, no, we can't get it, the people got to get it first. And we thought, lead by example. Go and take it, show that you are not afraid as government yourself to have the injection. So if things were going to go wrong, it will go wrong with you first, because you took it first. The Dutch have a different way of thinking. They said, no, we ain't going helping no politicians first. Let the people get it first. And that is because they had the decision-making powers, because they had a policy in place. We had nothing in place. We were not accustomed to dealing with a pandemic. So this international health regulation gives you, prepares you as country, autonomous or not, to be able to make your own decisions, lay out your own policies for how to deal with a pandemic moving forward. Listen, it's a learning curve for us, and I'm happy that we have taken on the journey to go there. Kudos to the minister and his team, because I know there's a team behind the minister handling a lot of these things. So again, I agree with it, and I think it was a great thing. They also agreed to, for example, create the Caribbean Hub to reinforce the local capacity, the know-how and experience in the area of public health. So that is that's another good something, I believe, that we can share. I hope that naturally this will also lend itself that we can eventually use their experiences, but also their expertise, because we are just the big. Because we have to understand that in the Caribbean, we have a lot of doctors, good doctors, that we might be able to use, that they can come over here, perform some operations for us instead of us sending our patients to them. If we have a state-of-the-art hospital, why not allow it? Why only hope that we can get them from the Netherlands or from another country that is big registered, when big is only a Dutch formality system of registrating people in the work field. People in America are not big. People in Colombia are not big. In Panama are not big. Yet we send all our people to operate over there. So what's the issue? I hope that this also will work in that direction. They also agreed to render an advice on the coordination, planning, and monitoring and preparations for the pandemic. And again, this is going to happen through a lively document that is being worked on here in St. Maarten by the experts in St. Maarten. We have the health inspectorate. I know we don't have a health inspector right now, but we have a deputy health inspector, Dr. Ellis, and she has a team, and they work on these things to ensure that we are now moving forward when it comes to pandemic preparedness. And this is something we all need to do. We have to understand that we were not well versed for COVID, but the way this world is going, more pandemics will pop up sooner than later. So, you know, we need to understand how we're going to address these things in legislations for the supplying of medical supplies, advice and communication, medical referrals, getting people out, testing, tracking and diagnosis, surveillance, protecting and supporting of medical personnel during the pandemic. So this whole document is how do we deal with this? And this is what this international health regulation is so important for. So again, a lot of good strides were made. I think important things were discussed in Curacao, and you know, I really hope that we will continue moving forward. Now, a lot of these things need capacity. So the question is, who will pay for it? And to my understanding, for the first 2-3 years, the Dutch will pay for this, while the European Union grant that it has been applied for will hopefully fall in place, and we will be able to do this. So again, I think we are on the right way when it comes to the health plan. The aspect, for example, of evacuating people, you know, the pre-evacuations, you know, a bad storm is coming. Your hospital might not be able to hold certain people that we move those out of the country. We can't hold on to them. Their state is not good enough for us to be able to guarantee life after the storm, that we pre-evacuate those people. Even people with dialysis, maybe we pre-evacuate them and put them in a place where they can at ease do their dialysis instead of fighting here because the access on the roads is bad, or electricity is unstable and you can't do certain things. These are all things that they're looking at now, because there are costs tied to these things and how you work with each other and you move forward. So again, I honestly believe that this was a good something. Naturally, we got a long way to go yet, so let's see what happens at the end of the day. I like the piece of naturally slavery, because slavery is now in everybody's mind, and we talk about funds, reparations. But I think one of the things that was most important was the effect that it had on the health of our ancestors, that through the genes continued going through. It had to do with the type of food we ate, the conditions we lived under. And I'm saying, when I say we, I'm talking now about the ancestors. But medically, there seems to be a correlation between those days and today's health, diabetes and all those type of things. And the report that just came out, The State and Slavery, there is a part of the report that looks at that and also talks about the modern day effects that slavery still has on us in the Dutch Caribbean. So I understand the agenda point very clear. The question is, so how are we going to deal with it exactly? Because this plays in to what I believe I heard when they were showing the pictures of the SSV new office. They were talking about a wellness center. I want to believe that the wellness center will be one of those preventive things where a healthy person goes to verify if he's sick or not. A sick one, we know you're sick, but a healthy one, we don't know if you have something. And they always say prevention is better than cure. And seeing that it's tied to the slavery past, it would mean that a lot of people that are from this area and their forefathers are from this area, that the chance that you might develop it because it's in your genes, and depending how you eat and etc., you might trigger it faster than others, that this is looked at and dealt with. So you see, it wakes up a lot of things in your mind that you look at. But again, fact of the matter is, there is a correlation between slavery and the health of the people in the Dutch Caribbean. The report State and Slavery also refers to that reasonably well. So I think in that sense, we should look at how it's going to be done. And the countries have agreed to seek funding for projects that focus on mitigating the effects of the slavery past on the people's health. A committee will be established to look into this, and Holland should open, in my opinion, its pocketbook and pay for these type of things, because these are direct effects of the slavery past. And if we can ensure that our people can live healthier lives, then so be it. Because at the end of the day, I need you all to understand something with how I see the solution to getting out of the slavery past. You can't afford to have a decent diet in Maarten. You can't afford to pay for fresh fruits and vegetables. But we sign MOUs to pass on knowledge and agriculture. No, what you got to sign is agreements with Denisio, Ras Bushman, Shola, make land available, and pay for agriculture to take off. Help people with backyard gardening. That's what we should be doing. Because if we want to talk about slavery and our health, then we need to make provisions that we can live healthy and not only keep importing. Don't tell me Santo Domingo got it and I could get it from Dominica. No, I want it here. And yes, we have a small piece of land, so we don't have a lot of land to do horizontal agriculture, but we could go up in the air, towers, and do it. We can do that. Why can't we do that? They do it all over the world. Are we so special? Or don't we have the willpower to do it? We're waiting for somebody else to come and do it for us, because we're not going to empower our own people to do it. You see, if we don't empower our own, if we don't care about our own, nobody will care about us. I don't care what you think. I'm telling you what it is. You take it how you want. But that's the reality that we are facing in this country, if we like it or not. Time to change has come. Am I the change? I hope I'm part of it. But everybody has to change. We all got to start putting our noses in the same direction. We got to leave hypocrisy by the door, bigotry by the door. We got to come and try to start a new thing. Put St. Maarten first. Just once. Just once. Let's try. And I honestly believe that the Dutch, knowing what went down, the king, breaking news, the king is contemplating on next week Saturday to apologize to everybody for what the role of the House of Orange was. He ain't waiting for you to study no more. He listened to my podcast. Even in Holland they listen. Even though most of the time is by those that shouldn't be listening. But hey, even he listening. And he's contemplating next week, Saturday, to apologize to everybody for the role of the Orange House. They made 600 million. They ain't gonna give back the money, but okay. But the state of the Netherlands made over 20 billion. And when I get into green energy just now, we're going to talk about how much money they need to give to fix climate change. Otherwise we're in serious trouble. But it's just to give you an elucidation of where we stand with these type of things. Because please understand that when we talk about health care, better health care, because that's where they closed off. The ministers and the state secretary said they were confident and enthusiastic that collaboration between the countries would result in a sustainable health care system in all parts of the kingdom and better health care for the people. Now, you see that part, sustainable health care? The CFT told us in no uncertain terms that Aruba, Curacao, and St. Martin's health care is not sustainable. It is not. So this organization is going to try to help us make it sustainable, putting policies in place on how we're going to cut the waste, how we're going to regulate health care. If that's the outcome, thank God, because that's what we're going to need. But that isn't around the corner. That's not around the corner. We got to start doing things in St. Maarten. I don't need to wait for the State Secretary of Holland or Curacao or Aruba to tell me how to do it. We know what to do. We know how to do it. We just have to agree to do it. And not because it's going to cost us a political vote, we will not do something that needs to be done for this country. That's why I said, leave the hypocrisy by the door. Just once, let's try to fix this country together. It don't need to be the elected officials alone. It's together we have to do this. Either we agree that we will do it, or we agree to continue as we are right now. Every man for his own, everybody hustling. But I don't think that's the country we really, really want for ourselves. Again, the energy transition to green energy has hit a major snag in the investments in the green energy projects. And this is worldwide. And this is not just the Netherlands. But I'm going to address the part of the Netherlands so you have an idea, because the Netherlands is very big in green energy. And the rise in the interest rates in the world market makes investing in green energy projects unattractive right now. While the climate transition is needed to get rid of the volatile fossil energy prices, the experts say. Remember, at this point in time, all of this crisis we are in with fuel is because of the war in the Ukraine and the ban on Russian oil and gas. But what has happened is the world market said, well, we could make money. So they raise the interest rates. And at this point in time, the interest rates have gone up already to 3%. So it doesn't affect the wind turbines too much at this point in time yet, and solar neither. You can still make some money, but you're not going to make the money you used to make. And you know, people look at investment at the bottom line. If the bottom line ain't good enough, they prefer not to do the investment because the risk might be too high. So again, these are the things that are now happening. But in Holland, in brief, the rise in the interest rates has led to high costs for companies in this renewable energy sector. The subsidies that the government has given are going to have to go up because they want to ensure that the client has a benefit, which is the customer, the resident of the country. So the government will have to give up more money. These are conclusions made by the Berenschot group that made a conclusion study by the sector. The sector have requested, so in Holland you have, let me see what they call them again, the Dutch Sustainable Energy Association, NVDE. They requested Berenschot to do a study, and the conclusion was what I'm reading. Now, one of the things is they are saying that the European Central Bank can give interest rates to banks to lend money for green projects, which means they'll lower the interest rates. They did that with the pandemic also, where they'll ask the banks, so the central bank will say, listen, I'm going to give you $50 billion that you all can lend to the people that want to do green energy projects, green investment. And by doing that, we will be able to get more companies on board to do it. Right now already the Netherlands has to put in an additional 17 billion to achieve the climate targets for 2030. So for the next 6-7 years, they have to put in 17 billion euro extra, beside the 35 billion they already put in. So 52 billion euros for the next 7 years to ensure that green energy can move forward. For up to 2050, they'll have to put in 165 billion euros into green energy if they want to reach the targets of 2050. So again, remember, a quarter of the renewable countries in in Holland already suffering from these high interest rates. And they have about 1,600 companies in the Netherlands that do these projects. So according to the Dutch Sustainable Energy Association, a lot of these companies, worst case, will cancel their investments and move backwards because the field becomes unplayable for them. It's too expensive for them. The bottom line doesn't lend itself anymore because technology has not reached to the level of development that it becomes cheaper than fossil fuel. So that's going to be a serious issue for them down the road. Possible solutions, like I said, is that the central bank gives a sustainability discount on the interest rate so that the investment to achieve climate goals is possible and that it doesn't come to a standstill. Remember, if nobody does nothing, we are going to reach this irreversible turning point. And a simple example is once the ice caps have melted, there's no ice age to put them back. Water level rising will have then occurred. Many countries will be underwater on certain coastlines. That's factual. That's irreversible. You can't fix that no more. You're going to have to do coastal protection, build dams around your countries to prevent from the water. The country is going to get warmer and storms are going to get heavier, bigger hurricanes, more flooding, more fires because the earth is going to warm up. That's what it means, people. That's what climate change is all about. That's why it is so important to understand when green energy hits a snag that climate change is getting defeated once again. And a lot of countries are still under the aspect of, listen, I can't eat climate change. I got to feed my hungry people. And the Caribbean is one such country. As Caribbean, we don't have the money to do what it is. And I think it was Maarten that once very eloquently said, we are paying for what our forefathers, our colonizers did to us. Industrialize the world and now tell us we must pay for the damages of climate change by fighting climate change. Very eloquently she put it, and I think it was a nice thing, but it doesn't solve the problem. But again, I want to go into my last section. Did you know? You know, every week I highlight, expose a little political gimmick geared towards fooling the people. This week, it has to do with when our Prime Minister addressed the question of the Winner CEO. She was all over the board explaining why the local couldn't be appointed to our locally owned company and all sort of nonsense about strategic thinking and helicopter view, which I have already indicated in this show how good the government's own is. Then came the political gimmick of planning to send letters to the government-owned companies about placing local counterparts to top-level management positions moving forward. Now, why do I say it's a political gimmick? Because this government very specifically, every time things get rough, it's the hands-off approach. Can you recall? I go exclude myself from this one. And I ain't on this, and I ain't on that. But again, my questions are simple. Where's the counterpart for PGIA's CFO? Where's that one? Who was appointed in Mikey Hyman's position? Where's that counterpart? Because a Dutchman there right now. Where's that counterpart? You know, I don't know. I really don't know how we're going to look at this. If I look at Telem, We have a CFO there, an Antillean brother, but we had no Samaritan. Then we have nobody in Telem that maybe with a few Coursera courses can become the CFO. Are you going to tell the CEO to put a counterpart so that in a few years our own can take the position? Or is just a bunch of hogwash? With you going to send a letter to the companies to put counterparts? Really? You really believe we believe you? Honestly, think about it when you're talking. Because you have taught us that when you go off script, you babble. And babble is something that you can be taught a foreign language. So, hopefully, you'll be speaking Mandarin to us the next time. But Madam Prime Minister, do you know that the Integrity Chamber made a report? Do you know that that report said that things are not going good in the tendering procedure in your government? Or don't you have a helicopter view? You know, the Integrity Chamber was even tackled by an MP, asked why not former recommendations. And while the Integrity Chamber has the authority, when they see something wrong, to notify the Public Prosecutor's Office, they chose not to do so. I think the files are not to be turned over, and reports are normally not published, but the recommendations and advices are. And when you see a recommendation to the government published, telling you, do this, this, because of what we found, and you do absolutely nothing, then the real question is, what is the government's real strategic thinking? What are you really protecting? Is it fraud? Because that's what it was called. That you're strategically trying to figure out how to circumvent? Or will you wait until it's too late and then say, ah, boy, my helicopter view messed me up? Not because you believe you all are doing a lot of things means you're getting a lot done. My closing remarks today are direct. Our Prime Minister, on behalf of the Council of Ministers, as shareholder, speaks of strategic thinking and having a helicopter view. But clearly seeing the way they have governed for over the past 40 months, they surely missed a lot of those courses at Coursera, as they are still failing miserably. They are in the government for our people. The double standards in our government has shown its ugly face once again. And even with the report of the Integrity Chamber, the government continues to promote illegal tendering. We took a loan from the Dutch without even knowing what the interest rates are, and they ensured that that part was not in the press release. Why not float a bond and let our local institutions also have a great opportunity to invest for 20 years at a profitable return on investment and ensure that the sustainability of our funds, be it medical or be it pension, would have gotten a nice opportunity. But I want to close today with this statement. The empowerment of our people is what I want to see and talk about. The empowerment of our people is what the Now Party stands for. And the Now will provide the necessary support so that our people can hold the top jobs and we can stop begging for others to do it for us. You remember that famous phrase? Give a man a fish and he will eat for the day. Teach a man how to fish and you will feed him for a lifetime. That's the phrase that we believe is needed in this country. That's how you empower your own. Not by sidelining them and then telling all sorts of BS about why they can't get it. Failing to plan is planning to fail. And this government has done this over and over and over. Please share my podcast and also like and subscribe to my YouTube page. Have a great week ahead, people. Bunks loves you all. Bunks out. Take care.